Today, in place of the regular podcast episode, I'm going to be sharing with you the cutting room floor of my second to last midweek ramble, where I shared unpopular knitting opinions. I still have a lot of content left that was cut out of that video for the sake of time, so I'm going to share that with you here. Grab your knitting, something cozy to drink, and let's go ahead and get started. Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. Just want to let you know this is not a traditional episode of the podcast. This is not technically episode 62. This is kind of a seat filler for the podcast because right now I am in California with my family traveling, and so as a way to fill the void of not having a podcast episode today, I am sharing with you guys additional content from the Unpopular Knitting Opinions video that didn't make it into the last video for the sake of time. So what you're going to see here is just content that I cut. It's not going to be as long as the last video, nor will it have as many unpopular knitting opinions, but it's going to have some in there that might make you chuckle and will allow you opportunities to share your own knitting opinions down in the comments below. So without further ado, let's go back in time and check out some additional unpopular knitting opinions. Circular needles with cables longer than 24 inches are too annoying to use. Okay, I know there's a lot of folks out there who don't like magic loop. And that's cool, that's fine, because I can understand. There's a lot of people that just feel like it's fiddly and fussy, and that comes up in a second. But for the longest time, that is almost exclusively what I use, only because I only have to focus on having one length of cable, and then I can knit anything in the round. And I felt like that was just convenient. However, I have this huge collection of circular knitting needles, but it's funny because all of my circular knitting needles, almost all of them are 40-inch cables. So yeah, I don't know what that means, but I guess I can get it. Like if it's longer than the 24 inches, you just have so much cable going on. It just feels like there's a lot of unnecessary stuff going on with your project. And this is going to move me into the whole magic loop thing, which I'm going to save for later. So yeah, I mean, I guess I don't think they're annoying to use. I'm so used to it, but sure, I could see where they would be annoying to use, especially if you're used to using the interchangeable tips where you have all the different cable sizes. So you can pretty much use the proper cable size to the circumference of your project. And if you're just used to that, you never have to pull loops. I'm just so used to pulling loops. So at this point, it's become kind of second nature. You don't always have to swatch. I'm not going to expound on this all that much because if you've watched the podcast, you know my thoughts on this. And I will tell you, you don't always have to swatch. I agree. Love to knit cables, never use a cable needle. Interesting. I love cables. I don't love to knit them because I always use a cable needle. Anytime I've gone to knit cables, I will always use a cable needle because I don't tend to like the way cables look when you are not using a cable needle. I feel like, I know it's more convenient and for a lot of people it's more enjoyable, but I feel like you can tell the cable doesn't have the tension it requires. It loses a little bit of its structure. And so I prefer the look of cables where a cable needle was used. However, I don't knit enough cables to be able to say it's worth using a cable needle and having it slow your rhythm down to get a nice crisp cable. Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, I know that a lot of people really don't like to use cable needles, so I get that. But if I were to become a more avid cable knitter, I would definitely be using a cable needle just because I feel like the appearance of the cables, it's just more worth in the long haul, it just looks better and it seems worth it. Fades. Are we over fades yet? Must everything fade? Why? Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. I have never really gotten into fades. I remember attempting a Find Your Fade way back when it was brand new, and I didn't like it. I didn't get it. That to me, I was like, this isn't gonna age well. I remember thinking those exact thoughts actually. I think a long time ago, I might have even mentioned it, that this trend is not going to age well. I don't like the way it looks. I don't know. And I think a lot of that was pattern specific. There were just the Find Your Fade shawl that Andrea Mowry knit, her sample is beautiful. And there were some things that people knit, since that were also really pretty. And as a shawl, yeah, I think it's really lovely. But then I saw a lot where it's the fade just wasn't fading. It was more just micro striping into the other color. And that's not the same. And unless you're hitting it the nail on the head, it's not hitting it on the mark. So yeah, that fading to me, and then fades in sweaters and garments, I just don't like that too much. that's just not it's not my jam, but it could be your jam, and that's great. And if you are rocking your faded sweater and you are happy in it and comfortable in it and you love it, it's going to show, and that's going to make me love it. So you know what? This is all just like, I know, it's just one of those things. It's all about on myself. Would I wear that? Would I knit that? Like for myself, probably not when it comes to fades. Not a big fan. However, I love like dyeing yarn and putting them together and saying, wow, this would be one of those fades. Like the fades are so cool with the hip kids these days. Whatever. I love color. I love manipulating color and doing all of that. But my not beef, but my issue, or whatever you want to call it, with fades is more about like my wearability and how I would wear a fade, and I just wouldn't. It just doesn't do it for me. So yeah, I mean, and in terms of answering this person's question, are we over fades yet? No, we are not. People are in love with fades. Must everything fade? No, everything must not fade. So that's my answer to those questions. I hate straight needles. I don't like to use the word hate about anything because we've all used it before, but I don't hate straight needles. I find them nostalgic. If I'm ever going to knit a dishcloth, I'll probably use straight needles because it's like, why the hell not? I mean, let's go back to the beginning. We all started with straight needles. I don't have many other projects where I would need straight needles other than maybe a dishcloth. I don't knit scarves. That's like scarves. It's like a whole nother thing. I don't like knitting scarves, but yeah, I don't have much use for straight needles. I don't hate them. I just don't use them very much, but they're nostalgic. That's the roots, guys. It's all about the process. I agree. It should be all about the process. We live in a materialistic society. We are all very driven by material items. That is not a judgment. That is a truth. Why be like that with our hobby, right? Like it's good to want the thing that you're knitting, but I think it's important to stop, slow down, and enjoy the process of getting to the thing that you're knitting. And let that drive you. My opinion. I knit one project at a time. That's great for this person. I've tried. I fail every time. I hate Magic Loop. I don't hate Magic Loop. I rely on Magic Loop, and Magic Loop has been there for me for so many years. I love Magic Loop. But it's one of those things where I wish there was something else. I don't like having the extra loops, but I'm cool with it. Acrylic is great for gifts, for everyday wear, never itchy, great value. It is great for gifts. I don't like the idea of wearing acrylic. I don't like the way it feels. I think it's sweaty. I do own like acrylic sweaters, but actually, to tell you the truth, I don't own many. I got rid of a lot of acrylic sweaters. I donated them to Safe Nest, because I just don't like wearing them. They don't keep me very warm. They tend to just feel kind of swampy. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of acrylic for everyday wear. And that is a preference in the way that I feel when I wear it. A lot of times, like if a person's wearing a really lovely acrylic cable knit sweater, I would never know the difference. I mean, I guess if I looked up close, maybe, but if a sweater looks good, it looks good. If you feel great in it, that's great. More so out of curiosity, what is the secret to knitting and walking? I remember in college, people would be walking around campus like reading. Like they're so intellectual and well-read that they can't possibly, commute from one part of the campus to the other part of the campus without putting their nose in a book. And I was like, that's just too much. It's extra. You don't need to just walk to the place where you're going and then read when you're there. I get it when you have a book that's just so good you can't put it down, but like sometimes you got to commute safely and not get in the way of other people because you got a nose in a book. Like it's this whole romantic idea, like Belle from Sleeping Beauty, she's walking through this like provincial town and she's reading. Like, okay, it's the same thing with knitting. You see people like putting videos on Instagram of them walking and knitting at the same time, and I'm always kind of asking myself, like, why just separate the two? Just go for a walk. Have that walk. And then when you get home, knit. But don't do both. One takes away from the other. It has to. Knitting patterns aren't priced high enough. I tend to agree with this. I don't know why I would disagree. I think that we should value our work appropriately. And I think that when you compare sewing patterns to knitting patterns, there's a large discrepancy there. And now with knitting patterns being very like like graded for all different sizes, there's a lot of work that goes into that on the part of the person who's like grading the pattern. So yeah, I mean, I think that in a lot of cases, sure, I think they could be priced higher to be more comparable with like sewing patterns, which are really pricey compared to knitting patterns. So sure, yeah. I mean, I guess I could say also too that there are a lot of times where I go and I don't even think about paying for a knitting pattern. It just doesn't cross my mind. It's like, okay, I'll pay $7 for that sweater pattern. I mean, $7, it's not a lot of money, but it's like, I guess for other things, maybe you would think about that. Like a cup of coffee, I wouldn't pay $7 for a cup of coffee, but I would very much easily pay $7 for a knitting pattern. And that maybe is because it could probably cost more. And maybe if it did, the designers would be getting a fair shake and we would be a little bit more reflective on the patterns that we're accumulating. Because there's no way there's no way that we could knit all the patterns that we own. And you know that's true. Getting sock yarn cranked into a tube is cheating. Okay, this is funny because I have been wanting one of those like fancy schmancy sock machines. I know that there are dyers out there who have them. I almost think that Christy, I don't know if you're watching this, but Christy has Yarn Cafe Creations, beautiful yarn, love her. I think she has a sock knitting machine. I might be wrong. I don't think it's cheating. If it depends on, I mean, are you competing with other sock knitters? Are you joining a sock knitting competition and you're bringing in your sock knitting machine and you're going up against a bunch of people knitting socks by hand? I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, clearly it's cheating. But I think if we're just knitting socks, creating socks because we like cozy woolly socks, no, it doesn't matter. People can do what they want. It's not cheating. I would never like bring my big backpack full of hand knit socks to a dinner party with a bunch of hand knitting sock knitters and be like, hey, why don't you guys have a giant backpack full of hand knit socks? Because like that's a thing. But no, I wouldn't say it's cheating. It is what it is. I've been tempted. I've been tempted to have one of those. If anything, for the sake of being able to crank out socks to show off my yarn. Because it is hard for me to swatch all of my colorways. But if I could do that, I could get my husband involved. Maybe my kids could get involved. So yeah, I don't think it's cheating. I think it's enticing. I'm tempted. Dpns are the worst. I don't agree. I love Dpns. I don't use them enough because I use Magic Loop. I use Magic Loop because I never have the Dpns I'm looking for. If I had a really good collection of Dpns, which I should probably acquire, I would use them more often. In that same vein, somebody said long Dpns are unnecessary. What's the point of something longer than 5 inches? And that wasn't exactly their wording, but I remember it so well that that's what I think it said. There. Why do long DPNs exist? Anything over 5 inches is simply too much. I disagree. Because I was looking at a photo. It was a photo of a petite knit pattern. And it was like her sleeves. It was like just one of those really cute Instagram photos. And her sleeve was being knit. And she had these really long, it looked like 10-inch DPNs. And she was knitting her sleeve with those. And I thought that looked so cool. And it looked comfortable. Like having the extra kind of needles sticking out, from your hand to give your hand a place to rest as you're working across the needles. I thought it looked genius. And so I'm actually on the lookout right now for a really good pair of extra long DPNs. I don't know. I'm drinking that Kool-Aid, guys. 9-inch circular needles are a pain in the butt. As much as I love listening to Ray say in his like deep 9-inch circular needles, I'm not even going to try. As much as I love that, I don't like 9-inch circular needles because they feel so freaking weird in my hands. Pardon my expression. They just feel weird. They're not comfortable. I feel like I'm knitting with like toothpicks. It's weird. Yeah. So they are a pain in the butt, in my opinion. I like picking up stitches. I also like picking up stitches. Swatching is necessary and helpful. Yes. A lot of times I agree. Swatching is necessary and helpful. I don't always do it, but I agree. Arm knitting is not real knitting. Yeah, I agree. I think arm knitting can be a thing. It can definitely have a place at the table, but I don't consider, like if somebody were to say like, yeah, I'm a knitter. I'm like, oh yeah, like what kinds of things have you knit? And they show me just like their repertoire of like arm knit blankets. I don't know. So I'd be like, wait. Anything else? Have you knit like, a hat? Some mittens? Anything? It would give me pause. Beginner knitters, don't start with a dishcloth. Knit what you want and learn as you go. 100% wholeheartedly agree. I am a big proponent of learning as you go through a meaningful project. I know that like exercises to like strengthen skills in any particular area is important. However, if that's all you're doing to teach yourself and you're not actually giving yourself a project that you can start and finish and see like this tangible, have this accomplishment, I think you're going to lose interest, or you're not going to you're not going to learn authentically. It's going to be very much learning skills, but you're not applying those skills. And I think that, and I, as a teacher, I have a teaching background. I know the importance of application. Learning the skills is one thing. Being able to apply the skills is a complete other thing, and it's a very necessary step. So if you are just beginning knitting, give yourself a project that you want to knit. I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy over the top difficult, but give it an actual project that when you finish, you will have a thing beyond a dishcloth or a scarf, like an actual thing that requires a few different skills. Teach yourself those skills throughout the project, and you'll realize that not only do you learn the skills, you learn kind of troubleshooting, you learn modification techniques, you kind of understand how to make things work for you in a way that's maybe a little bit different than how it's laid out in the instructions. So yeah, wholeheartedly agree. Neutrals look good on, but they are so boring to knit. I don't know if I would say they're boring. I would say that they're less visually captivating than other colors, but sometimes what some might consider boring, I might consider relaxing and soothing. So I don't know, like my Felix that I'm working on right now, it's a kind of a neutral greenish, like mustardy green color. And it's not, I mean, when I look at it, it's not like, ooh, it's just, it is what it is. But I really love working on it because I can zone out and watch something on TV and just love the rhythm and kind of fall into the process. So knit shorts give off diaper butt vibes. Yes, when they're knit poorly or the sizing is off, they definitely give off diaper butt vibes. However, I have seen knit shorts. Jessie Made Designs has a couple of patterns for like little floofy knit shorts. And when they're knit well and the size is right, they're really cute. Would I wear knit shorts? Probably not. But I did see Convivial Cruise, Jasmine on Instagram just posted a picture of a test knit that she did for some sweatpants or joggers, and they were super cute. I would probably wear those. Mystery knit-alongs almost always lead to ugly results. I would say mystery knit-alongs sometimes lead to ugly results. And also to go along with that, there was another person who said, mystery yarn / mystery knit-alongs seem like an unwise investment of precious money and time. I think that they sometimes lead to ugly results, and I do believe that they are an unwise investment in your money a lot of times, only because I feel like a lot of these are these multi-skein shawls, and even maybe your time. But I don't know, because if you're really into the process and you love the mystery of it all, regardless of whether or not you're going to wear that garment, then yeah, that again, this is based on the person and their preference. Me personally, this is my opinion. I definitely think that, in my opinion, I probably wouldn't do them because more of an unwise investment in my time. I mean, the money, yes, of course, but I would usually stash dive for things like that so that I don't have that money investment, but definitely an investment in my time. I think that I probably I won't drink the Kool-Aid for that. Colorwork sweaters are fun to knit, but a little ridiculous to wear. I think that really depends on the colors you're choosing and the style of the colorwork sweater. I'm starting, if you watched my frog or finish video a few videos back, I shared with you my Koivua sweater by Caitlin Hunter, and whether or not I was going to frog it. Spoiler alert, I am going to frog it completely. But that's because I feel like once it's done, it's not going to be very wearable. I love the colors together. I like the colorwork motif, but the whole overall look of the sweater and the design elements going into it, there's just too much going on with all the colorwork in all the different places that I don't think it's going to look great. I think it's going to be too much of a statement piece and maybe a little ridiculous. So I have to agree with this opinion occasionally. There are lots of colorwork sweaters that I would wear the hell out of and love it because they're just so classic. Well, there you have it. That's it, guys. The last of the unpopular knitting opinions from that filming session. I had so much fun creating that. I've had so much fun in the comment section of the previous unpopular knitting opinions video, having conversations with you guys about our opinions and thoughts on this craft that we love so much. Please feel free to comment down below if you would like to start up a conversation. Be kind, be nice, understand that everybody has opinions, but let's have a conversation about it because that's important. important. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend this time with me today. If you enjoyed yourself or took anything away from this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like more content. I upload twice a week, once on Sundays and once on Wednesdays for the Midweek Ramble. I will see you on Wednesday for the Midweek Ramble. Until then, happy making, happy knitting, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye!